The cargo ship hummed through empty space like it always did. Captain Lee Hyun sat in his pilot seat, drinking cold coffee and watching the stars drift by. He had been flying this route for 5 years now. Same station, same planets, same boring cargo runs. That's exactly how he liked it. No surprises, no problems, no people. His AI companion beeped. Approaching Research Station Delta 7. Estimated arrival in 2 hours. Hyun grunted in response. He stretched his arms and thought about the supply drop. Medical equipment, food rations, and some scientific instruments. Easy work. He would be in and out within an hour, then back to the quiet of space. But something caught his eye on the scanner. A small blip appeared on his screen off the main route. It wasn't moving. Hyun leaned forward and squinted at the display. The shape looked wrong for an asteroid. Too smooth, too regular. AI, what am I looking at? Scanning now. It appears to be a vessel, Captain. Small transport class. No power signature detected. It's drifting, Hyun sighed. This was exactly the kind of thing he tried to avoid. Getting involved in other people's problems never ended well. But there were rules about distress situations. If someone was alive on that ship, he had a legal duty to check. Fine, change course. Let's take a look. 20 minutes later, his ship docked with the damaged vessel. The airlock hissed as it connected. Hyun pulled on his protective suit and grabbed a scanner. The moment he stepped through, he knew something was very wrong. The air was thin and cold. Lights flickered weakly along the corridor. Scorch marks covered the walls. This ship had been attacked. Hyun moved carefully through the narrow hallway. His boots clanged on the metal floor. He found the cockpit first. The controls were smashed, completely destroyed. Whoever did this wanted to make sure the ship couldn't fly or call for help. Then he heard it. A soft sound like crying, but it wasn't quite human. The pitch was different, more musical somehow. He followed the sound to a small cabin at the back of the ship. The door was half open. Hyun pushed it aside and stopped cold. A woman lay on the floor, her body twisted at an unnatural angle. But she wasn't human. Her skin was a deep violet color, almost purple in the dim light. She had 4 fingers on each hand instead of 5. Her face was elegant but alien, with large eyes that dominated her features. Those eyes were looking at him now, filled with pain and desperate hope. Beside her sat a small child. A girl, Hyun guessed, though he wasn't entirely sure how this species worked. She had the same violet skin and large eyes. She looked maybe 7 or 8 years old by human standards. The child was holding her mother's hand, tears streaming down her face. The woman tried to speak. Her lips moved, but only weak sounds came out. She was dying. Hyun had seen enough death in his time to recognize it. He knelt down beside them, not sure what to do. I'm human, from the colony worlds. Can you understand me? The woman's eyes focused on him. She nodded slightly. With great effort, she lifted her other hand and pointed at her daughter. Then she touched her own chest, right over her heart. Your daughter? Hyun asked, another nod. The woman's breathing was getting worse. She pulled the child closer and then, with shaking hands, pushed the girl toward Hyun. The meaning was clear. Please, take her. Protect her. Wait, I can't just... But the woman wasn't listening. She couldn't. Her eyes were already glazing over. She pulled Hyun's hand to her daughter's and pressed them together. Her lips moved one last time, forming words in a language he didn't understand. Then she went still. The child let out a wail that made Hyun's chest hurt. It was a sound of pure grief, transcending species and language. The girl threw herself onto her mother's body, sobbing uncontrollably. Hyun sat there, frozen. This was not supposed to happen. He was just a cargo pilot. He delivered supplies and minded his own business. He didn't rescue alien children. He didn't get involved in whatever tragedy had happened here. But as he looked at the small girl crying over her dead mother, something in his chest twisted. He remembered being young once, scared and alone. He remembered what it felt like when the world ended and no one came to help. Hey, he said softly. Hey, kid. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The girl looked up at him with those enormous eyes. They were still wet with tears, but there was something else there too. Intelligence. Understanding. She knew exactly what had just happened. She spoke in halting, accented human language. Please help, Mama said. Humans good. Humans help. Hyun's throat felt tight. Yeah, I'll help. Come on. We need to leave this ship. He stood up and offered his hand. The girl looked at her mother one more time. then gently kissed her forehead. She took Hyun's hand. Her fingers felt cool and slightly different from human hands, but her grip was firm. They walked back through the damaged ship together. Hyun carried a small bag he found in the cabin that seemed to contain the girl's belongings. When they reached his ship, he helped her through the airlock and found a spare cabin for her. "You can stay here," he said. "It's not much, but it's warm and safe." The girl nodded. She sat on the bed looking small and lost. "Thank you, human." "Hyun. My name is Hyun." "Hyun," she repeated carefully. "I am Nira. My people are Velan." "Nice to meet you, Nira. I'm sorry about your mother." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks, but she wiped them away quickly. "Mama was good." She was. She tried to run. Bad people chased us. They shot our ship. She hid me, but she was hurt bad. Hyun felt anger rise in his chest. Attacking refugee ships was common in this part of space, but that didn't make it any less horrible. Pirates and raiders preyed on the weak and desperate. "Listen, Nira, I'm going to take you somewhere safe, okay? There's a refugee center on Station Delta 7. They help people like you. They'll find you a place to stay, maybe even find your other family." Nira's expression changed. The sadness was still there, but something else crept in. Fear. "No family," she whispered. "Only Mama." "Now no one." Hyun didn't know what to say to that. He mumbled something about it being okay and left the cabin. Back in his pilot's seat, he stared at the controls without really seeing them. What had he just gotten himself into? His AI beeped helpfully. "Course correction complete. Resuming route to Delta 7. Hyun nodded absently. 3 days to the station. 3 days with the grieving alien child on his ship. Then he could hand her over to the authorities and go back to his quiet life. That was the plan. Simple and clean. He tried to ignore the small voice in his head that said nothing would be simple anymore. The first day passed in uncomfortable silence. Nira stayed in her cabin most of the time. Hyun brought her food and water, but she barely touched it. He understood. Grief killed appetite. He had been there before. On the second day, Nira started coming out to the common area. She sat quietly in a corner watching Hyun work. He pretended not to notice her staring, but he could feel those large eyes following his every movement. It was unnerving. Finally, he turned around. "You need something?" Nira shook her head. "Just watching. Your ship is different from Mama's ship." "Yeah, well, this is a cargo hauler. Built for carrying stuff, not for speed or comfort." "It is nice," Nira said softly. "It feels safe." Hyun didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded and went back to his maintenance checklist. A few minutes later, Nira spoke again. "Hyun, can I ask you something?" "Sure. What will happen to me?" "At the refugee center?" Hyun set down his tools. This was the conversation he had been avoiding. "They'll take care of you. Give you food, clothes, a place to sleep. They'll try to find any relatives you might have. If they can't find anyone, they'll place you with a family who can take care of you." Nira was quiet for a long moment. "A Velan family?" "Probably. I don't know how many Velan refugees are at that station, but there must be some." "And if there are no Velan families?" Hyun frowned. "Then they'll find someone else. Someone who can give you a good home." Nira nodded slowly, but something in her expression made Hyun uneasy. She looked resigned, like someone accepting a death sentence rather than rescue. On the third day, everything changed. Hyun was in the cockpit when his AI alerted him to an incoming message. He opened it expecting cargo manifests or docking instructions. Instead, he got a general broadcast about Station Delta 7's refugee services. He read through it absently until one section made him stop cold. Unaccompanied Velan minors will be processed according to Velan cultural law. Due to the matriarchal nature of Velan society, orphaned children without verified family connections are classified as incomplete social units and will be assigned to labor education programs until suitable placement can be arranged. Labor education programs. That was a fancy way of saying work camps. Hyun felt sick. He must have made some noise because suddenly Nira was standing in the doorway. She looked at his screen, and even though she was too far away to read it clearly, her face went pale. "You know," she said quietly, "you know what happens to orphan Velan children?" Hyun turned in his chair. "Nira, I thought they would help you." "They will help," Nira said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "They will feed me and give me work. That is help, yes? I will be useful. That is what matters for Hollow Ones." "Hollow Ones?" Nira walked into the cockpit and sat down in the co-pilot seat. She looked very small in the large chair. That is what my people call orphans with no family. We are hollow, incomplete. We have no place in proper society until we prove our worth through service. That's insane, Hyun said. You're just a kid. I am Valen, Nira corrected. Your human ways are not our ways. For my people, family is everything. Without family, we are nothing. Hyun ran his hands through his hair. There has to be another option. Some other place I can take you. There is one way, Nira said slowly, but you would not want to do it? It is too much to ask. Tell me anyway. Nira took a deep breath. In Valen culture, when a parent dies, another adult can perform the ceremony of memory. They honor the dead parent and accept the child as their own. It is not quite the same as adoption in human terms. It is deeper. The adult becomes family, truly family, in the eyes of our people and our law. Hyun leaned back in his chair. So someone else could take you in officially? Yes, but it must be done willingly. The person must learn about my mother, understand her life, and formally accept responsibility for me. It is a serious commitment. Most people will not do it for a stranger's child. What about other Valen refugees? Wouldn't one of them do this ceremony? Nira's expression grew even sadder. Many Valen refugees are struggling themselves. They have their own families to protect. Taking in a hollow child is seen as a burden. A noble burden perhaps, but still a burden. And my mother was not from a high-status family. We are just common people. No one will feel obligated to help me. Hyun stared at the control panel. His mind was racing. He was just a cargo pilot. He didn't know anything about raising kids, human or alien. His life was simple and quiet, and that's how he liked it. Taking on a child, especially one from a completely different species, was crazy. But the alternative was letting this little girl disappear into some labor program where she would be treated as less than human. Less than Valen even. A hollow thing to be used until she proved her worth. No, that wasn't right. That wasn't acceptable. How do I do it? He heard himself say. This ceremony thing. How does it work? Nira's eyes went wide. You would consider it? I'm asking about it, aren't I? Tell me what's involved. Nira's hands trembled. You would need to go before Valen elders. You would need to prove you understand Valen ways and that you truly want to honor my mother's memory. It is not easy. They will test you, and if you fail or if they think you are not sincere, they will refuse. But if I pass, you wouldn't be hollow anymore? No, I would have family. I would be complete. Nira's voice cracked. But Hyun, I cannot ask this of you. It is too much. You barely know me. You did not know my mother at all. Why would you give up your quiet life for a stranger? Hyun didn't have a good answer for that. Maybe it was because he remembered being a scared kid once. Maybe it was because he had spent too many years alone and was tired of it. Maybe it was just because looking at Nira's hopeful face made something in his chest ache. Let me think about it, he said. That night, Hyun couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk staring at the ceiling. His rational mind listed all the reasons this was a terrible idea. He wasn't parent material. He knew nothing about Valen culture. He would probably mess everything up. The kid deserved better than him, but his heart kept showing him the image of Nira's mother pressing their hands together in her last moments. Please, protect her. Around midnight, Hyun got up and walked to Nira's cabin. He knocked softly. You awake? Yes, her voice was small. He opened the door. Nira was sitting on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. She had been crying again. When she saw him, she quickly wiped her face. I've made a decision, Hyun said. Nira looked up at him with those enormous eyes. Hope and fear warred in her expression. Tell me about your mother, Hyun said, sitting down on the edge of the bed. Tell me everything. If I'm going to do this ceremony thing, I need to know who she was. Nira's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but this time they were different. Not tears of grief alone, but tears of relief and gratitude and overwhelming emotion. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Hyun. He patted her shoulder awkwardly. Don't thank me yet. We still have to convince those elders, right? Tell me about your mom. What was her name? Eris, Nira said, smiling through her tears. Her name was Eris, and she was the bravest person I ever knew. Station Delta 7 was larger than Hyun expected. The docking bay buzzed with activity as ships came and went. Refugees from a dozen different species crowded the platforms. Hyun kept Nira close as they walked through the chaos. Finding the Valen community took some asking around. Eventually, a tired-looking station worker pointed them toward the lower residential levels. Section G near the agricultural domes. That's where most of the Valen families settled. The walk took 20 minutes through winding corridors. Hyun noticed how the station changed as they got deeper. The upper levels were clean and modern. Down here, things looked older and more worn. Paint peeled from walls. Lights flickered. This was where the refugees lived. The people nobody wanted to see. Section G was different from the rest of the lower levels, though. The Valen community had transformed their area into something that felt almost homely. Colorful fabrics hung from the walls. Strange plants grew in makeshift gardens. The air smelled of unfamiliar spices. Valen people stopped and stared as Hyun walked past. He was clearly human, clearly an outsider. Nira walked beside him with her head held high, but he could feel how nervous she was. They found the elder house at the center of the community. It was just a converted storage room, really, but someone had painted beautiful patterns on the door. Nira knocked 3 times, following some ritual Hyun didn't understand. An old Valen woman opened the door. Her skin was a paler purple than Nira's, faded with age, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. She looked at Nira first, then at Hyun. Her expression was not friendly. "I am Elder Hana," she said in perfect human language. "State your purpose," Nira bowed deeply. "Honored Elder, I am Nira, daughter of Eris who has passed to the stars. This human, Lee Hyun, wishes to perform the ceremony of memory. He seeks to become my family." Hana's eyes narrowed. "A human? Performing our sacred ceremony?" She looked Hyun up and down like he was something unpleasant she found on her shoe. "This is highly irregular." "I understand," Hyun said. "But I made a promise to her mother. I want to do this right. Wanting and doing are very different things, human. Come inside. We will discuss this matter properly." The inside of the elder house was crowded. 5 more Valen elders sat in a circle on cushions. They all looked ancient and stern. Hyun felt like he was back in school, facing disappointed teachers. Elder Hana sat down and gestured for Hyun and Nira to sit opposite them. "Tell us your story. How did you come to know Eris and her daughter?" Hyun explained everything. Finding the damaged ship, Eris's death, taking Nira aboard. He left nothing out. The elders listened without interrupting, their faces unreadable. When he finished, another elder spoke. This one was male, his voice deep and gravelly. "You showed kindness in rescuing the child. But kindness and family responsibility are not the same thing. Do you understand what you are asking to do?" "I'm asking to take care of Nira, to give her a real home instead of sending her to some labor program." The elders exchanged glances. Hana spoke again. "So you know about that? Good. At least you understand what is at stake." She leaned forward. "But do you understand what the ceremony of memory means? It is not simply adoption. You must honor Eris's life, learn her ways, and commit to raising her daughter according to Valen principles. You must become family in truth, not just in law." "I understand," Hyun said, though he wasn't entirely sure he did. Hana smiled, but it wasn't warm. "We shall see. If you truly wish to perform this ceremony, you must first prove yourself worthy. You will spend 48 hours living as a Valen parent would live. You will care for Nira using our traditions. You will cook our food, speak our greetings, follow our customs, and we will watch you." Hyun's stomach sank. "You mean like a test?" "Exactly like a test. If you fail, the ceremony will not be performed. Nira will be processed through normal channels." Hana's expression softened slightly as she looked at Nira. "It is not that we wish to be cruel, child, but our ceremonies are sacred. We cannot allow them to be performed without proper understanding and commitment." Nira nodded. "I understand, honored elder. When do we start?" Hyun asked. Now, the next 48 hours were the hardest of Hyun's life. The elders set up a small apartment for him and Nira, furnished in traditional Valen style. Everything was different from what he was used to. The sleeping mats were wrong. The eating utensils were weird. Even the way doors opened was backwards. The first morning he had to prepare breakfast. Nira sat at the low table and watched as he struggled with the Valen cooking equipment. The food processor wouldn't work because he kept pushing the controls in the wrong order. When he finally got it running, he realized he had no idea what Valen people ate for breakfast. "Nira, I need help," he admitted. She smiled for the first time since they arrived. Mama always made grain porridge with sweet berries. The purple ones, not the red ones. Red ones are for dinner. Why? Because red ones are heavy. They make you sleepy. Purple ones give energy for the day. That actually makes sense, Hyun said. Okay, show me how to make this porridge. Nira got up and stood beside him. Together, they figured out the cooking equipment. The porridge came out lumpy and slightly burned, but it was edible. They sat together at the low table and ate in the traditional Valen way, with small spoons held in the left hand. You are doing well, Nira said quietly. I'm failing miserably, Hyun corrected, but I'm trying. Throughout the day, the elders came and went. They observed everything. How Hyun spoke to Nira, how he handled her emotions when she grew sad thinking about her mother, how he learned the traditional greeting gestures and the proper way to clean their living space. He made mistakes constantly. He forgot to remove his shoes at the threshold. He served water with the wrong hand. He completely butchered the pronunciation of several important words in the Valen language, but he kept trying. And more importantly, he kept asking Nira to teach him. Tell me about your mother's work, he said on the second evening. They were sitting together preparing vegetables for dinner in the Valen way. She was a botanist, Nira said, her voice warm with pride. She studied how to grow food from different worlds. She wanted to help refugees learn to farm on new planets so they would not be hungry. That's beautiful, Hyun said. Was she good at it? The best. She could make anything grow anywhere. She said plants are like people. They adapt if you give them a chance, Hyun thought about that. Smart woman, yes. Nira was quiet for a moment. She would have liked you, I think. You are stubborn like her. You do not give up. On the final morning of the test, Elder Hana arrived with the other elders. Hyun was exhausted. He had barely slept, too worried about messing something up. Nira looked nervous too. The elders sat down in their circle. Hana gestured for Hyun and Nira to sit facing them. Lee Hyun, Hana said formally. We have observed you for the required time. You have made many mistakes, Hyun's heart sank. I know. I'm sorry? But, Hana continued, and there was something different in her voice now, something almost warm. You have also shown something more important than perfect knowledge of our ways. You have shown genuine care for this child. You have listened to her. You have honored her mother's memory through your actions, not just your words. Most importantly, you have not tried to make Nira into something she is not. You accept her as Valen, and you seek to learn rather than to change. The other elders nodded in agreement. Hana stood up. This council has reached a decision. We will permit the ceremony of memory to proceed. You may become family to Nira, daughter of Eris, in the eyes of our people and our traditions. Hyun felt like he couldn't breathe. Relief washed over him so strongly that his eyes stung. Beside him, Nira grabbed his hand and squeezed tight. Thank you, he managed to say. Thank you so much, Hana smiled. This time it was genuine. Thank Nira. She has been a patient teacher. And thank Eris, who clearly raised a wise and brave daughter. The ceremony will be performed tomorrow evening. Rest now. You both have earned it. That night, in their small apartment, Nira hugged Hyun tight. You did it, she whispered. We are going to be family. Hyun hugged her back, still not quite believing it was real. Yeah, kid. We are. The ceremony was beautiful. The Velen community gathered in the largest common area they had. Someone had decorated it with flowers and glowing crystals that cast soft purple light. Hyun wore traditional Velen ceremonial robes that felt strange and uncomfortable, but he didn't complain. Elder Hana led the ceremony. She spoke in the Velen language, her voice rising and falling like music. Hyun didn't understand most of the words, but he understood the meaning. This was sacred. This was important. When it was his turn to speak, Nira had taught him what to say. He spoke slowly, carefully pronouncing each word. I honor Eris, who gave life to this child. I honor her memory and her legacy. I accept Nira as my family, my daughter in spirit and in law. I will protect her, teach her, and help her grow. This I swear before witnesses. Elder Hana took Hyun's hand and Nira's hand. She pressed them together, just like Eris had done in her final moments. By the old ways and the new, by blood and by choice, you are now family. May the stars shine upon your path. The gathered Velen people made a humming sound, a traditional blessing. Nira was crying, but she was smiling too. Hyun felt something shift inside him. This was real. This small alien girl was his responsibility now, his family. After the ceremony, there was food and music. The Valen community welcomed them both. People came up to congratulate Hyun, to thank him for honoring their traditions. Some were clearly skeptical about a human raising a Valen child, but they kept their doubts polite. It was late when they finally made it back to Hyun's ship. Nira was exhausted but happy. She fell asleep almost immediately in her cabin. Hyun sat in the pilot's seat, still trying to process everything that had happened. His AI beeped. "Incoming message, Captain." "Put it through." A woman's face appeared on the screen. She looked official, wearing a station security uniform. "Captain Lee Hyun, this is Security Chief Kim Soo-jin from Station Delta 7. We need to talk about the Valen child you brought in." Hyun's good mood evaporated. "What about her?" "The ceremony was approved by the Valen elders. Everything is legal. I'm not questioning the legality, but we've received some concerning information. There are inquiries being made about a Valen woman named Eris and her daughter. Multiple parties are asking questions about them." "What kind of parties?" Soo-jin's expression was grim. "The kind that make me nervous. Military contractors, intelligence operatives. Someone is very interested in finding that child. I think you should know what you're getting into." Hyun felt cold. "Tell me everything." Soo-jin glanced around as if checking that no one was listening. "About 6 months ago, Eris registered at one of our refugee processing centers. Standard procedure. But her background check flagged something interesting. She was a botanist, yes, but she was also a data analyst for the Valen Agricultural Ministry before the war. She had access to some very sensitive research." "What kind of research?" "Terraforming technology. Ways to make hostile planets habitable. In a galaxy where habitable planets are becoming scarce and millions are displaced by war, that information is worth a fortune. Several factions would kill to get their hands on it." Hyun's stomach dropped. "And you think Eris had this data?" "I think someone believes she did. The ship that attacked her wasn't random pirates. It was too precise, too targeted. They destroyed her engines first so she couldn't escape, then boarded. They were looking for something, but they didn't find it," Hyun said slowly. "Because Eris died before they could make her talk." "Exactly. Which means if they think her daughter might know where the data is." Soo-jin didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Hyun ran his hands through his hair. "Nira never mentioned anything about her mother's research being important. She might not know, or she might be too scared to tell anyone." Soo-jin leaned closer to the camera. "Captain Hyun, I'm telling you this as a courtesy. You did a good thing taking in that child. But you need to be careful. Very careful. There are dangerous people asking questions, and eventually they're going to figure out where she is." "What should I do?" "Keep moving. Don't stay in one place too long, and maybe think about putting some distance between you and the major travel routes. The outer colonies might be safer." The call ended. Hyun sat in the darkness of his cockpit thinking. After a few minutes, he got up and went to Nira's cabin. She was awake, sitting on her bed. "I heard voices," she said quietly. "Is something wrong?" Hyun sat down next to her. "Nira, I need to ask you something important. Did your mother give you anything before she died? Anything at all?" Nira looked down at her hands. "She told me not to tell anyone. I'm your family now. You can tell me." After a long moment, Nira lifted her hand and touched the back of her neck. "Mama had a biomemory implant. It's Valen technology, data storage that bonds with living tissue. She transferred it to me before the attack. She said it was important that I had to keep it safe." Hyun felt like he had been punched. "So you have her research data?" "All of it?" "I think so, but I don't know how to access it. Mama said it would only open for family. She said," Nira's voice broke, "she said one day I would understand why it was important. But now she's gone and I don't know what to do with it." Hyun took a deep breath. Okay, this is good. Well, not good, but at least I know what we're dealing with." He thought quickly. "That ceremony we did today, it registered you as my family in Valen law, right?" "Yes, why?" "Because if the implant recognizes family DNA, it might recognize me now too. We might be able to access the data and see what we're dealing with." Nira looked scared. "The bad people who killed Mama, they want this data. If we look at it, if we try to use it, they'll know. They already know, or they will soon. We need to figure out what we have so we can protect it properly. And protect you." A loud alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Hyun jumped up and ran to the cockpit. His scanner was showing 3 ships approaching fast. They were small but heavily armed. "Attack vessels." The comm crackled to life. "Cargo vessel Wanderer, this is patrol ship Kestrel. Power down your engines immediately. We're coming aboard to conduct a search. Yun's hands flew over the controls. Station Delta 7, this is Wanderer requesting emergency assistance. We have hostile vessels approaching. Sujin's voice came through, urgent. Wanderer, those ships are using false patrol codes. They're not official. Get out of there now. Hyun didn't need to be told twice. He fired up the engines and released the docking clamps. The ship lurched away from the station just as the first energy blast struck where they had been seconds before. Nira, strap in, he shouted. She ran into the cockpit and jumped into the co-pilot seat, buckling herself in. Her face was pale but determined. The attack ships pursued them. Hyun pushed his cargo hauler as fast as it would go, but it wasn't built for speed. They were gaining on him. They're charging weapons again, Nira said, reading the scanner with surprising skill. Hold on. Hyun threw the ship into a hard turn, narrowly avoiding another blast. The station was falling away behind them. He plotted a jump to hyperspace, but his ship needed 30 seconds to charge the drive. They didn't have 30 seconds. Then his comm lit up with a new signal. Wanderer, this is Commander Park Ji-woo of the Independent Fleet. Hold your position. We're coming in. 3 new ships dropped out of hyperspace between Hyun and his attackers, military vessels well armed and fast. They opened fire on the attack ships, forcing them to break off their pursuit. Ji-woo's face appeared on Hyun's screen. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Hyun, you idiot. What have you gotten yourself into this time? It's a long story, Hyun said. Tell me later. Jump to these coordinates. We'll escort you, and you're going to explain to me why half the sector seems to want to kill you. Hyun's hyperspace drive finished charging. He punched in the coordinates Ji-woo sent and jumped. As the stars stretched around them, he looked at Nira. She was gripping her seat tight, but she wasn't panicking. Sorry, kid, he said. Looks like our quiet life just got complicated. Nira managed a small smile. Mama always said life with family is never boring. Ji-woo's fleet brought them to a hidden base in the Talon system. It wasn't much to look at. Just a collection of old mining stations orbiting a dead planet. But it was defensible and off the major routes. Perfect for people who wanted to stay hidden. They met in Ji-woo's command station. She had coffee waiting, real coffee, not the synthetic stuff. Hyun gratefully took a cup while Nira sat beside him, looking around with wide eyes at all the military equipment. Start talking, Ji-woo said. Hyun told her everything. By the time he finished, Ji-woo was leaning back in her chair with her arms crossed, looking impressed despite herself. So let me get this straight. You accidentally rescued a kid who happens to have the most valuable terraforming data in the sector, stored in her head. Then you legally adopted her through an alien ceremony, and now you're being hunted by the Kreth Dominion, who are basically the nastiest bunch of mercenaries and raiders in this part of space. That about covers it, Hyun said. You always did know how to find trouble. Ji-woo shook her head. The question is, what do we do about it? Can you help us? Nira asked quietly. Please? We don't have anywhere else to go. Ji-woo looked at the small alien girl and her expression softened. Kid, I've known Hyun for 15 years. We served together in the colony defense forces. He saved my life 3 times. So yeah, I'll help, but we need a plan. First things first, Hyun said. We need to access that data Nira is carrying. If we don't know what we have, we can't protect it properly. Ji-woo nodded. I have a medical team that can work with Velan biology. Let's see what we're dealing with. 2 hours later, they gathered in the medical bay. The doctor, a calm woman named Dr. Choi, had successfully accessed the bio-memory implant. The data was now displayed on several screens around the room. This is incredible, Dr. Choi said, scrolling through files. Eris wasn't just a botanist. She was a genius. This data contains detailed terraforming protocols for over 50 different planet types, atmospheric processors, soil enrichment techniques, water reclamation systems. With this information, you could make almost any planet habitable in a fraction of the usual time. And how much would this be worth? Ji-woo asked. To refugees? To colonists? To anyone trying to settle hostile worlds? Dr. Choi shook her head. Priceless. Absolutely priceless. This could change everything for millions of displaced people. Which is exactly why the Kreth want it, Hyun said. They could sell it to the highest bidder or use it themselves to control settlement rights. Ji-woo stood up and started pacing. Okay, here's what we know. The Kreth have been tracking you since Station Delta 7. They probably have informants throughout the refugee networks. They know you have the kid and they suspect she has the data. They're not going to stop coming after you. So what do we do? Hyun asked. We use humanity's greatest advantage, Jiwoo said with a grin. We're unpredictable and we don't play by their rules. Over the next day, they formed a plan. The Kreth were powerful and well organized. They had better ships, better weapons, and more resources, but they thought like military strategists. They expected their enemies to be logical and cautious. Humans, as Jiwoo liked to say, were neither. The Kreth will expect us to run and hide, Jiwoo explained to her command staff. They'll expect us to hole up somewhere safe and wait for rescue. Instead, we're going to do something crazy. She pulled up a star map. The Talon system has the densest asteroid field in this sector. Navigation through it is considered nearly impossible. Most species won't even try because the risk is too high. But humans have been flying through asteroid fields since the early space age. We're good at it. One of her officers spoke up. You want to lure them into the asteroids? Exactly. We make them chase us into terrain where we have the advantage. Hyun is one of the best pilots I know. If anyone can navigate those rocks, he can. Hyun felt his stomach flip. That's a lot of trust you're putting in me. You've earned it. Plus, Nira can help. Velen people have incredible spatial awareness. It's part of their biology. Between your human reflexes and her Velen navigation sense, you two make a pretty good team. Nira looked nervous but nodded. I can do it. Mama taught me how to read space patterns. 2 days later, they put the plan into action. Jiwoo's fleet sent out carefully leaked information about Hyun's location. As expected, the Kreth took the bait. 6 of their attack ships appeared at the edge of the Talon system. Here they come, Jiwoo said over the comm. Hyun, you know what to do. Lead them in, we'll be right behind you. Hyun's cargo hauler broke from the fleet and headed straight for the asteroid field. The Kreth ships immediately gave chase. They were faster, closing the distance quickly. Entering the field in 30 seconds, Hyun said. He looked at Nira in the co-pilot seat. You ready? She closed her eyes and placed her hands on the scanner panel. I can feel them. The rocks. They have patterns, rhythms. I can guide you. Then let's dance. They plunged into the asteroid field. Immediately, the space around them became a chaos of spinning rocks from pebbles to mountains. Hyun's hands flew over the controls, dodging and weaving. His reflexes, honed by years of flying through dangerous space, kept them alive. Left 20 degrees, Nira called out, her eyes still closed. Then hard right in 3 seconds. Big rock coming. Hyun followed her instructions without question. The massive asteroid spun past them with meters to spare. Behind them, the Kreth ships struggled. They were built for open space combat, not this kind of flying. One of them clipped a small asteroid and spun out of control, crashing into a larger rock and exploding. They're falling back, Hyun said. No, they're regrouping. They're going to try to box us in. Nira's eyes snapped open. 3 ships are circling around. They want to cut off our escape. Then we won't escape. We'll go deeper. Jiwoo's voice came through the comm. Hyun, don't do anything stupid. Too late. He pushed the throttle forward and dove deeper into the asteroid field. The rocks here were denser, more chaotic. It was like flying through a storm. But this was where the real trap was set. Now Jiwoo, Hyun shouted. Jiwoo's fleet appeared from behind several large asteroids. They had been hiding, waiting. The Kreth ship suddenly found themselves caught between Hyun's ship and the human fleet, all in the middle of a deadly asteroid field. Fire at will, Jiwoo commanded. Energy beams lit up the darkness. The Kreth tried to return fire while also avoiding the asteroids. It was too much. Human pilots used to flying in dangerous conditions had the advantage. They could shoot and dodge at the same time. The Kreth couldn't. 2 more Kreth ships exploded. The remaining 3 tried to retreat, but Jiwoo had positioned her ships perfectly. There was no clear escape route that didn't go through even denser asteroid concentrations. This is Commander Park Jiwoo to Kreth vessels. Surrender now and you'll be allowed to leave peacefully. Keep fighting and you'll die here. There was a long pause. Then one of the Kreth ships powered down its weapons. The other 2 followed suit. Smart choice, Jiwoo said. Now get out of my system and tell your bosses that the data they want is under human protection. If they want it, they'll have to go through all of us. The defeated Kreth ships limped away. Hyun let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. His hands were shaking from adrenaline. Beside him, Nira opened her eyes and smiled. We did it, she said. Yeah, Hyun said. We did. Back at the base, Jiwoo met them in the docking bay. She was grinning. That was some flying, old friend. You two make quite a team. Couldn't have done it without Nira, Hyun said, putting his hand on the girl's shoulder. Her navigation was perfect. Jiwoo knelt down to Nira's level. "You're a brave kid. Your mother would be proud." Nira's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Thank you for helping us. Thank you for protecting my family." "That's what humans do," Jiwoo said. "We protect our own. And anyone under Hyun's protection is under mine too." That night, Hyun and Nira sat together in their quarters, looking out at the stars. The immediate danger was over, but Hyun knew this wasn't the end. The data Eris had died to protect was too valuable. Others would come eventually, but for now they were safe. They had allies, and they had each other. "Hyun," Nira said softly, "Yeah? When I was navigating through the asteroids, I felt something. It was like Mama was there with me, helping me see the patterns. Do you think that's possible?" Hyun pulled her close. "I think your mother's wisdom lives on in you. Everything she taught you, everything she was, that's all part of you now. So yeah, in a way she's always with you." Nira leaned against him. "I'm glad I have you too." "Me too, kid. Me too." 3 months passed. Word of their victory in the Talon system spread through the refugee networks. The story changed a bit with each telling. Some said Hyun single-handedly destroyed a dozen Kreth ships. Others claimed Nira used mysterious Velan powers to control the asteroids themselves. The truth was less dramatic but more meaningful. A human had risked everything to protect an alien child and her mother's legacy. Jiwoo helped them arrange a meeting with the Refugee Council, the main organization that coordinated aid and settlement for displaced peoples. The council operated out of New Haven, a large station that served as a hub for refugees from dozens of species. Hyun and Nira traveled there with a small escort from Jiwoo's fleet. The station was massive, a ring of metal and glass spinning in space. As they docked, Hyun could see through the windows into different sections. Each area was adapted for a different species. Some had thick atmospheres, others had low gravity. It was a patchwork of cultures trying to coexist. The council chamber was designed to accommodate everyone. The temperature was moderate, the air was standard, and the seating could adjust to different body types. Representatives from 20 species sat around a large circular table. When Hyun and Nira entered, all eyes turned to them. A human representative, an elderly man named Ambassador Kang, spoke first. "Captain Lee Hyun and Nira, daughter of Eris, welcome. We've been very interested in speaking with you both." They sat down. Hyun felt Nira's hand slip into his, nervous. He squeezed gently. Another representative spoke, this one a tall being with silver skin and multiple arms. "We understand you possess valuable information, terraforming technology that could benefit many refugees." "That's correct," Hyun said. "Eris spent years developing these techniques. Her data could help settle hostile worlds faster and more efficiently. And yet you have not shared this data with anyone," the silver being said. There was accusation in his voice. "Because people are willing to kill for it," Hyun responded. "We've already been attacked once. Until we know this information will be used to help people, not to give someone a monopoly on settlement rights, we're keeping it protected." Ambassador Kang leaned forward. "That's wise. But it's also selfish. Every day, thousands of refugees struggle to find habitable worlds. Your mother's research could ease that suffering, Nira." Nira spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "My mother wanted to help people. She died protecting this data so it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. We will share it, but we need promises. Real promises, not just words." The council members exchanged glances. Finally, a Velan representative spoke. It was Elder Hana. Hyun was surprised but pleased to see her there. "What kind of promises do you seek, child?" "That the data will be shared freely with all refugee communities," Nira said. "That no single faction can control it or profit from it."
"And that my mother's name is honored in the sharing." Elder Hana smiled.
"These are reasonable requests. I support them." The discussion went on for hours. Some representatives were suspicious. Others were eager. But slowly a consensus formed. The council would create a special trust to manage the data. It would be made available to all refugee settlements at no cost. The techniques would be taught freely to anyone who wanted to learn them. In return, Nira would be recognized as the keeper of her mother's legacy, and a foundation would be established in Eris's name to continue research into helping refugees adapt to new worlds. When the vote was taken, it was unanimous. Afterwards, Ambassador Kang approached Hyun privately. "That was well done. Both of you showed wisdom beyond your years. We just wanted to do right by Eris, Hyun said. You've done more than that. You've set an example. Kang looked thoughtful. Tell me, Captain Hyun, have you thought about what comes next? The Council has been discussing offering you a position as a liaison between human and alien communities. Your unique situation with Nira could be valuable. I'm a cargo pilot, not a diplomat. You're a father who learned an entire alien culture in 48 hours to protect his daughter. That makes you exactly the kind of person we need. Kang smiled. Think about it. No pressure. Over the next week, something unexpected happened. Their story inspired others. A human family on New Haven adopted a young refugee from a species whose homeworld had been destroyed. A Velen elder offered to mentor human children in traditional arts. Small bridges began forming between communities that had previously kept to themselves. Hyun and Nira decided to settle on New Haven, at least temporarily. They found a small apartment in a mixed-species residential area. It was strange at first. Their neighbors were human, Velen, and several other species. But strange became normal quickly. Nira enrolled in a mixed-species school. She was nervous the first day. What if the other kids don't like me? She asked. Then they're idiots, Hyun said. But I don't think that's going to happen. You're pretty likable, he was right. Within a week, Nira had made friends with several human children and became a sort of cultural ambassador, teaching them about Velen customs. She also started helping other young refugees adjust to life on the station. Hyun watched his daughter bloom. She was still sad sometimes, especially at night when she thought about her mother. But she was healing. Having purpose helped. Having family helped. One evening, about 4 months after they settled on New Haven, Hyun came home to find his apartment full of children. Human kids, Velen kids, and a few others he didn't recognize. They were all gathered around Nira, who was showing them how to prepare a traditional Velen dish. Hyun, Nira called out happily. Look, I'm teaching them Mama's recipes. The children all turned to look at him. One human boy, maybe 10 years old, spoke up. Are you really Nira's dad? The one who flew through the asteroid field? That's me, Hyun said. That's so cool. Another child said. Can you teach us to fly? Hyun looked at all these eager faces. Something warm spread through his chest. Maybe someday. For now, how about we all have dinner together? Looks like Nira made enough food for an army. The meal was chaotic and loud. Children talking over each other, sharing stories from school, arguing about which species had the best games. It was nothing like Hyun's old quiet life on his cargo ship. It was messy and complicated and sometimes overwhelming. It was perfect. After the other children left and Nira was getting ready for bed, she came to sit with Hyun in the living room. I've been thinking about something, she said. What's that? Some of the kids at school, they don't have families. They're orphans like I was, like I almost stayed. She looked up at him. Do you think we could help them? Not adopt everyone, but maybe help them find families, or at least be there for them like you were there for me. Hyun felt his throat get tight. This girl, this wonderful, compassionate girl, had been through so much and she still wanted to help others. I think that's a beautiful idea. We could talk to the council, maybe start a program. Nira smiled. Mama would like that. She always said family isn't just about blood. It's about who you choose to love and protect. Your mother was a smart woman. That night, after Nira was asleep, Hyun sat alone and thought about how much his life had changed. 6 months ago, he had been a lonely cargo pilot who avoided connections and kept to himself. He had been running from his own painful past, from memories of being an orphan himself. Now he had a daughter. He had friends. He had purpose. The scared little girl who begged him to honor her mother's memory had given him something precious. She had given him a reason to stop running. His comm device blinked. A message from Jiwoo. Saw the council feed. You and the kid are famous now. How does it feel? Hyun smiled and typed back. Terrifying, wonderful, exhausting, amazing, all of the above. That's parenting for you. Proud of you, Hyun. Eris would be too. Hyun looked at the small memorial he and Nira had set up in their apartment, a picture they had found in Eris's belongings, showing a smiling Velen woman holding a young Nira. Beside it was a small potted plant, one of the first successful hybrids using Eris's techniques. It was growing well, thriving in what should have been hostile conditions. I hope so, Hyun whispered. I'm trying my best. From Nira's room he could hear her breathing, deep and peaceful in sleep. She had nightmares less often now. The scared hollow child was becoming a confident young girl with dreams and hopes for the future. And Hyun, who had once laughed at the idea of being anyone's father, couldn't imagine his life any other way. He got up and checked on her one more time, pulling her blanket up and tucking it around her shoulders. She mumbled something in her sleep, a mix of Velan and human words. Even in dreams, she lived in both worlds now. "Good night, kid," Hyun whispered. "Your mama would be so proud of you." "I know I am." New Haven Station had grown significantly. The success of Eris's terraforming techniques had allowed dozens of new settlements to be established. Refugee populations that once lived in cramped stations now had real homes on real planets. The Eris Foundation, which Nira had helped establish, had become one of the most respected research organizations in the sector. Hyun still couldn't quite believe it sometimes. He looked at his life now and compared it to who he had been before. The lonely cargo pilot seemed like a different person, someone from another lifetime. Nira was 11 years old now, though she preferred to point out she was almost 12. She had grown taller, her violet skin had deepened in color, and she carried herself with a confidence that made Hyun's chest swell with pride. She attended the Advanced Academy on New Haven, where she studied both Velan and human sciences. Her dream was to continue her mother's work, but to expand it, to blend different species' knowledge into something new. But today was difficult. They stood in the memorial garden they had planted 3 years ago. The tree for Eris had grown tall and strong, its branches spreading wide. Purple flowers bloomed on it, a Velan species that shouldn't have been able to survive in the station's artificial environment. But Nira had made it work, using her mother's techniques. Nira had been quiet all morning. It was the anniversary of Eris's death, a day they always spent here together. "Do you ever regret it?" Nira asked suddenly. "Saying yes to me that day?" Hyun turned to look at her, surprised. "Why would you ask that?" "Because your life was simple before. You were alone, but you were safe. You didn't have to worry about anyone else. Then I came along and everything got complicated. We got attacked. We had to fight. You had to learn an entire culture. You gave up your quiet life for me." Hyun sat down on the bench near the tree and gestured for Nira to join him. She sat close like she always did when she needed comfort. "You want the honest truth?" he asked. She nodded. "When your mother died and she pushed you toward me, I was terrified. I didn't want the responsibility. I planned to drop you at the refugee center and never look back." He saw Nira flinch and he took her hand. "But then I learned what would happen to you. I saw what it meant to be hollow, to be incomplete. And something in me just broke. I couldn't do it. I couldn't walk away." "That doesn't answer my question," Nira said softly. "Do you regret it?" Hyun looked at the tree, at the flowers Eris would never see. Those first days were scary. The ceremony preparation was hard. Getting attacked was terrifying. Learning to be a parent when I had no idea what I was doing, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. He squeezed her hand. "But regret it?" "Not for a single second." Tears rolled down Nira's cheeks. "Really? Really? You want to know something? Before you, I was running. I was running from my own past, from connections, from everything that made life meaningful. I thought being alone was safe, but it wasn't safe. It was just empty." He wiped her tears with his thumb. "You didn't complicate my life, Nira. You saved it. You gave me purpose. You gave me joy. You gave me a reason to be better than I was." Nira threw her arms around him and sobbed, not sad tears, but the release of worry she had been carrying for who knows how long. Hyun held her tight, this alien girl who had become his entire world. When she finally pulled back, she was smiling through her tears. "I have something to show you." She pulled out a small data pad from her bag. On it was a complex set of equations and diagrams. "I've been working on this for months. It's a hybrid agricultural system that combines Mama's Velan techniques with human hydroponics and Krellian soil enrichment. I tested it in the school lab and it works. We can grow food 20% faster using 40% less resources." Hyun looked at the data, amazed. "Nira, this is incredible. That's not all. I want to share it with the foundation, but I also want to teach it. I want to create a program where young people from different species can learn together, mixing their culture's knowledge. We could call it the Bridge Program." "Your mother would be so proud," Hyun said. "I'm proud. Will you help me present it to the council?" "I'm nervous to do it alone." "Of course. We're a team, remember? The next week, they presented Nira's proposal to the Refugee Council. Ambassador Kang, now retired but still influential, attended as a special guest. Nira stood before the assembly, nervous but determined. Hyun stood beside her, ready to support her but knowing she needed to do this herself. She explained her research clearly, showing the data and the results. She talked about her mother's dream of helping refugees not just survive but thrive. And she talked about how combining knowledge from different species could create something better than any single culture could achieve alone. When she finished, the room was silent. Then Elder Hana stood up and began the Valen humming, the traditional sound of approval. Other Velan representatives joined her. Then Ambassador Kang started clapping and the humans in the room followed. Soon the entire council was showing approval in their various cultural ways. The proposal was approved unanimously. The bridge program would launch in 6 months with Nira as the youngest member of its advisory board. After the meeting, as they walked back to their apartment, Hyun noticed something. People recognized them now. They smiled and nodded, showing respect. A young human boy ran up to them, excited. "You're Nira. You're the bridge girl. My teacher says you're going to change how we learn about other species." Nira blushed but smiled. "I'm just trying to help. It's working," the boy said, then ran back to his parents. That evening, their apartment was full again. More children than usual, and some adults too. Jiwoo had come to visit, bringing news from her fleet. Dr. Choi dropped by with some medical updates for Nira's biomemory implant, which was still monitored carefully. Even Ambassador Kang stopped in, bringing traditional Korean rice cakes. "This reminds me of when I was young," Kang said, watching the chaos of mixed-species children playing together. After the colony wars, humans had to learn to work with so many different peoples. It was hard, but it made us stronger. That's what you're building here. Hyun looked around his crowded, noisy, messy apartment and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This was family. Not just him and Nira, but this whole complicated network of people who cared about each other. Later, after everyone had left and the apartment was quiet again, Nira came to sit with Hyun. "I got a message today," she said. "From the new settlement on Kepler 442b. They used Mama's techniques to grow their first successful crop. They named the agricultural center after her." "That's wonderful." "Yeah." Nira was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I forget what she looked like. I have pictures, but I can't always remember her voice anymore. That scares me." Hyun understood. "You know what I think? I think memories change. They have to. But that doesn't mean we forget. Your mother lives on in everything you do. Every plant you grow using her methods. Every person you help with the bridge program. Every time you show compassion to someone who's scared and alone. That's all her living through you." Nira leaned against him. "And you. She lives through you too. You protected me like she asked. You honored her memory by becoming the father she wanted me to have." "We honored her together," Hyun said. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Nira spoke again. "The council wants us to go to the new settlement. To see Mama's techniques in action. It's a 3-month journey. When do we leave?" "You don't have to come. I know you have work here." Hyun laughed. "Nira, where you go, I go. That's what family means." She smiled. "There's something else. They want us to bring other people. Specifically, they want us to bring some of the orphans from the bridge program, to show them what's possible, to give them hope." Hyun thought about it. A ship full of mixed-species children, all heading to see a new world built on cooperation and shared knowledge. It would be chaotic. It would be challenging. It would be exactly what they should do. "Let's do it," he said. 2 months later, their ship launched from New Haven. Hyun was at the helm, with Nira in the co-pilot seat, just like that day 3 years ago when they fled through the asteroids. But this time, instead of running from danger, they were flying toward hope. Behind them in the passenger compartments were 15 children from various species. All orphans or refugees, all part of the bridge program. They were excited, nervous, chattering in multiple languages. As the station fell away behind them and the stars stretched out ahead, Nira turned to Hyun. "Thank you," she said. "For everything." "Thank you," Hyun replied. "For teaching me what family really means." The ship jumped to hyperspace. Ahead of them lay a new world, built on the foundations of Eris's dream. A place where different species worked together, where knowledge was shared freely, where everyone had a chance to belong. Hyun looked at his daughter, her profile illuminated by the glow of the instruments. She was studying the navigation charts, already planning their approach to the new settlement. She was so much like her mother, brilliant and compassionate and brave, but she was also like him now, stubborn when she needed to be, fiercely protective of those she loved, willing to take risks for what was right. She was a bridge herself, between two species, two cultures, two ways of thinking, and she was his daughter, not by birth but by choice.